I think I'm pretty much done with sanding this thing. I used the 80 grit block, and it's nice and flush, and the contour looks pretty good. Just kind of have to eyeball it up. I stuck a piece of foam here on the end just to practice shaping that. I might leave it foam. I don't know. Yeah, the curve looks pretty good. Okay, I finished sanding the foam to profile. Now I'm adding the extension pieces right here and here. I'm using some white glue, water-based stuff. Works good on the foam. So once I sand these, then I'm going to add, I have some strips here. I'm going to add to the bottom, all around the bottom. A little bit of shaping with the block, and it'll be ready to do the fiberglass. Looking forward to that. About an hour's worth of effort, and I managed to glue on all these extra extensions here, get them sanded, so they're all following the profile pretty good. Yep. So that gives me just a little bit extra fiberglass to work with all around so that I can trim it to fit just right. And then I've also been working on the steering wheel design. So you can see it's 3 spokes, and then looks like it has a brass knob in the middle, and then the throttle and spark advance levers. So I started working on what I want to do here. I'm going to have a piece of tube, this is 1 1/4, rolled to about 13.5 diameter. And then I'm going to have, this is going to be a piece of 1/8 inch steel. I'm going to have water jet cut to this pattern. I can move this. So that'll be the piece I'll get back. Then I'm going to put a small little bend in here, so it'll have a slight dish to it, help it get away from the dash. I'll weld this. This is drawn a little bit long, so I can trim it. And then this piece here is the center to one of the Sousa go-kart steering wheels. It's a little cap, chrome cap, and a little base here. So then this is a freeze plug, brass freeze plug I had out in there in the junk. And then this represents the arms. Those will be aluminum. And I was thinking I might be able to find some little brass thumb screws that I could put there. Because if you look close, it's hard to see, but those are little thumb screws. It appears to be. So I could put this on here like this. And then I have a castle nut here, or I mean a acorn nut. So that doesn't look too bad. And then I found this, this came off of an old brass faucet that is no good anymore. I could put that on there maybe. So that's not too bad. You know, I think down at the shop I have some brass knobs for cabinet doors. So that would look good too. Anyway, trying to emulate the look. I think what I'm going to do on the steering wheel part here, I'm going to use black tool dip to create a rubber coating around that. That's going to be an experiment, see if that works. So, in between doing all this heavy duty work, I work on these little things. Okay. So next I'm going to block this up and work on the fiberglass. So the plan of attack here is to use this wax paper and some Scotch tape, and then here's the epoxy and the hardener, and then I'm going to use the 6-ounce cloth here. And I'm going to cover the foam. Oh, yeah, and I cut my thumb on this stupid strip here. I tell you, it's just not been a good day. I bled like a stuck pig, too. So, I got it all bandaged up. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to cover it. And then once it hardens, take overnight. Maybe I'll put another, I think I put 3 layers on it. And the wax paper allows it to release from the foam. And then I'll still have the core. In case my plan doesn't work, I can use that piece of foam as a buck or patterns for something else. Progress continues on my grand experiment on this fiberglass cover. You can see I've completely covered the foam with wax paper and Scotch tape. And it's a little bumpy, but I think the weight of the glass and the epoxy will help smooth some of it out. Plus, I don't care what the inside of the cover looks like. My goal is to get enough resin on the outside that I can sand it reasonably smooth, and then if it needs a little Bondo here and there in the final analysis, that'll be fine. I think I'm about ready to put on resin. I got to put some newspaper down and block it out. Now I've opened up the fiberglass and I've draped it over the plug here. And I taped it along the top and the back there, so I'm going to trim it. And that'll give me a pattern, and I'll see how many I can get out of this piece here. Okay, the time has come to dive in. I've cut 3 layers of cloth. This is the first one I have laid across there. And then I'm using the West Systems epoxy resin with the extra slow hardener, so I have plenty of time to wet this out. So, no going back now. Here's the first layer. Got it wetted down. And it's taking, you can see how it's taking the shape of the foam block. Leave it a little long, and when it hardens up, it'll be easier to trim. Now, I'm no expert at this, and the people that really know how to do this stuff would think this is crazy, but let's see what happens, huh? Here's the second layer of glass, and then a nice wet coat of resin, and then I'm going to put on the third layer of glass. But when I put the first layer of resin on it, it took quite a bit, but the second one went on nicer. So, continuing on, third layer. Alright, that finishes layer number 3, and I wetted it out pretty good. But I still need to put more epoxy on it. So tomorrow night, I'll put another coat or 2 on. Keep building it up till it smooths out. Might be a little bumpy from the wax paper, but I didn't want to sacrifice the foam plug. I could have just gone right over the top of it and then hollowed it out, but I needed that plug just in case. Okay. One of the nice additions to this body are these louvers. And I was fortunate that there's a guy here in town. He has a louver press in his garage. He's been punching louvers for the hot rod crowd for 25 years. So I went over to his house, real nice guy, and he charged me $2 a louver, and he punched him, he laid it out and punched him while I waited. That was handy. So that makes the car look pretty good, I think. That emulates the real car, which has louvers on the side. As you might recall from a previous segment, I'm working on this steering wheel, trying to figure out what I'm going to do with this center section. So, I scrounged around down at the shop, and I had this white knob, which I think looks okay, and then I had this brass one floating around, so that looks pretty close. Oops, fell down. Let me show you this thing here. So this is part of the center of an Isuzu steering wheel, and that snaps in, and I can put a bolt right through this right here, bolt all this up, so, and then it just, after you screw it down, this just pops on. So that should be easy to rig up, actually. These will be stainless steel or polished aluminum, something shiny, I think. These little knobs here I got down at the hardware store. It accepts a 1024 screw. So I put those right here. And then you got the brass knob. So I'm sneaking up on, I might paint some little graduations in there, you know, because that plate has something going on there. And then this, tomorrow I'm taking some 1/8" steel over to my water jet guy, and he's going to cut out the center rib. And then another guy at a different fab shop who has the dies to roll 1 1/4 thin wall tubing. I'm going to have him roll a circle that I can weld together. So that's happening tomorrow. So it won't be long before I have the steering wheel together. Alright, still pondering. And then I've been working on the dash. I wanted to extend the height of the dash just so it would look a little better. And this is right where the steering shaft goes through. So I found this material left over at the shop, another high dollar material. It's kind of a metallic. It's basically metal with a phenolic backer. The top is metal and it's embossed. It's got a texture to it. Yep, this was some expensive stuff that I used on a job that's left over. So it's got a gray gunmetal kind of finish to it, which I think looks good. And then for the faces here of the gauges, my buddy Bob Miller, he's building the Austin 7, the Rosengart version in the Austin 7 build-up. He made these little plastic things here with a machine he has. One for gas, one for oil, and then a speedo. So, scrounging around at the hardware store, I found of all things a 2-inch key ring. And these are 2-inch. I had them made at 2-inch because I knew about these. But the beauty of this is it's cheap, fits in there, and it looks like a bezel. And then I got a 3-inch version here. This is just slightly on the large size. I got to shave it down a little to fit in there. But I'll use hot melt glue on the back side to hold it in, and probably hot melt glue to put it on the metal. Let's set it up here and see how it looks. So bear with me here. I'm fumbling around. Well, I'm not doing well at all here. Okay, that goes there. This goes here. And straighten that up. So you can kind of get the idea. That I think will fly. So that's a pretty easy piece to do. You know, actually both of these are, once I get everything figured out and all the materials here. So that's what I'm going to work on here pretty soon. Here I cut the backer board, or in essence the face of the dash, out of a piece of wood. And I'm going to put that textured metal on it next. Once I get it installed, I can put on the gauges and that'll be done. You know, this is oak veneer. I could almost stain that, just leave it the way it is, but I think I'll do the metal. Here is the mock-up for the dash. I don't have it installed yet. I just have the gauges taped in place, trying to figure out the spacing. But I like the way this metal turned out. I pulled the plastic coating off and it has a little shine to it. I think that spacing looks pretty good. I don't know. I'll have to warm up to it. Okay. So it's been 4 or 5 hours since I put the coat on, and it's dry to the touch, but not completely dry. See, this is still flexible. That'll be rock solid when it's dry tomorrow. And then see how it's shiny right there? I want to get enough epoxy on there that the whole surface looks like that. A couple of coats. Build it up. 24 hours ago, I put on this coat right here. And so I'm getting ready to put on another coat of epoxy. I cleaned up all the newspaper. I'm going to set it up again. I trimmed it a little bit. It's still a little long. Nice and hardening up nicely. Okay. Let's get another coat on it. This coat is nice and wet. Just letting it flow down. I think I'll let this dry overnight and put one more on tomorrow night. It's already starting to build up to where I have some room to sand it, and it's smoothing out pretty good. So, and then it took 6 pumps of each to do it this time. It took 8 the very first coat. I managed to finish the dash. So the dash is screwed on and has these little plastic caps, and then these are glued on with epoxy. I think that looks alright. One more thing off the list. I decided to cover the tailpiece, the foam tailpiece, with fiberglass. And I've got 2 coats of epoxy on it right now. I'll have to put one more at least. And then the rear cover, I think that's all the epoxy. I might sand it down once, which will level it out considerably, and then maybe put another coat of epoxy. We'll see. I've also been working on installing the aluminum on this top edge here. I've only made it up to here so far. It's kind of a painstaking process, but I think it'll look all right when it's done. Sheesh. Now I'm up to the hard part. This kind of a compound curve here. Oh, and I finished the dash. That's all done. I think I finally have everything I need to finish this custom steering wheel. I have my quick disconnect fitting, and then I had my friend who can roll tube. This is 1 1/4 diameter thin wall steel. I wanted a 13.5 inch diameter. He couldn't roll a tight circle, so he rolled 2 halves and I have to weld it together. It's on top of my pattern here. This center web, that's 1/8 inch steel that I took the pattern over, and he used that to water jet cut it. Then I'm going to put a little bend here and here and here so that the center will have a little dish to it, because then this thing will go in here, and then maybe I'll use this. So this will get painted, and this I'm going to try that tool dip, kind of a rubberized coating. We'll see how that works. Black color. Probably paint this silver. I might put some of that shiny aluminum on there, polished aluminum. That might look alright. So in a couple of days I'll have that looking pretty good, I think. Let's hope. Okay, I'm going to pop the fiberglass off the foam here and see how it releases. Let's see what happens. I've loosened it up a little bit, got it started. That might work. Some of the wax paper came along with it, but it's easy to pull off. It's sharp as hell. I cut the crap out of my hands. A little bit of epoxy got through, but that's okay. Alright, foam plug looks good. Okay. Got quite a bit of trimming to do. And I've got to cut in a screen. Of course, I got to sand it. Maybe another layer of epoxy. I just had to set it on there for a second, see how it looked. It's way long, but you can get the idea. Once I trim that up, get it all smooth, bolt it in place. Alright, I think I'm on my way to a successful rear cover, let's hope. I picked up my chassis plate today from a local trophy shop. There's a guy down there that will engrave this for me on a piece of brass. $8. And I'll rivet it to the frame. So that's kind of cool. Well, I'm glad to say I finished this aluminum that goes all around. And that was tedious. So I'm going to put some, I had to break it up into joints to make it manageable into strips. So I'm going to put some oval head screws at each of the seams, here and here, and then here, over there. So that'll finish it off, I think. Okay. Well, I have to be pretty careful when I cut this thing. So I trimmed it a little bit at the end and a little bit on the front. And I created a center line here so I know it's as square on there as I can get it. So this tape, because I can see through this tape is even with the aluminum, and then back here even with this plywood. So I'm going to whittle away at this carefully. And then this is just an initial cut line. I still have to come up to about here or so. Alright, let's sneak up on this one. I'm getting closer. Just a little bit more sanding in here. See, that comes together pretty good there. But there's just a little gap here. So a little more sanding here, and that will bring that together. And then over here, I'm just a little bit long, so that once I get the front part there right, I can dress this to face the plywood. One little thing here is, I don't know if you can see it, but the fiberglass doesn't lay down. And I think it'll still be all right. I might have to work on the transition between this and the block that's the tail cone. Alright, I get this just a little closer and then I can work these in. Okay. Okay, so I have the seam looking good here in the front. It's all taped in place. And then this piece of tape represents, that's my final cut line, which lines up with the metal. And then it lines up in the center, and it's centered up there. So I come to find out that with an 80 grit sanding block, this stuff sands pretty easy. So I'll just not cut off too much, and then I can dress it to where it fits in real nice. Okay. Yeah. Little by little, I've got all these seams looking good. All the way down, all the way around. The thickness of 3 layers worked out good. That's flush. All I have to do is dress this right here. And it's not too far off the plywood, so that worked out all right. Okay, so I have it taped down so it won't move while I finish this right here. So once that's done, I got a bunch of sanding to do to get this smooth and looking good. I'll do some work on the inside too. You can still see some of the tape stuck in there. The last piece of this initial fitting puzzle is this block here for the tail cone. So you can see it's still quite a bit long. And then this raised up just a little bit right here. See how that presses down? It didn't follow the plywood exactly. So maybe I'll screw this down and then work this to it. I don't know. But I think I can make that come together. So I want to get everything dry fit decently first, and then I can go to shaping, sanding, and finessing everything to fit really good. And then I'll end up probably gluing that block, that whole tail cone on with some epoxy. Well, I spent quite a bit of time thinking about this rear cover, and it's coming along pretty good. I still have a few critical things I have to do to make sure it works the way I had planned. But I'm pleasantly surprised that it fits real good and that the profile is decent. And this block ended up being a little bit short because I have to raise it up to meet this. See, I can press that down right there. So I'm going to put an additional piece of wood under there so I can put a screw. And then this is flush enough that I can sand that into profile. Okay, well, I'm not out of the woods yet. Keep plugging away. Continuing on with this cover, I sanded on the inside, so that's a little bit better. I might put another coat of epoxy on the inside too. And then I also, I sanded around, I smoothed it out all around where the screws are going to go. And then I've marked the location where I'm going to drill and install it. So the thinking is, I screw it in place, maybe not every screw, but enough that it stays put while I cut the opening and while I sand it to a smoother finish. Because it's kind of hard to hold down out on a bench. So that's my thinking. Next, I want to cut a hole in the top up here for the screened area for ventilation. You can see where I'm starting to lay it out. But I didn't want the cover moving around, so I went ahead and drilled and installed all the screws. So here you can see screws into the plywood and then screws all the way around. And it's on there nice and secure. I mean, this thing is rock solid. I'm using an number 8 by half going into the wood and an 832 half going in through the aluminum. Alright, so now it's nice and solid, won't move around, and I can do a good job cutting the opening. I think I'll call this the end of the 4th video. I managed to get the cover installed, made and installed. Still have quite a bit more to do to it and the tail. But I'll get that all finished up in the next segment.